Did you know the Chicago Bulls are 8-4 in the Pat Beverly era? And you thought the KD trade was the big deadline move? Mm-mm. Run It Back starts now.
Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back.
Happy Tuesday morning and welcome to Run It Back. What's that, Chandler? Oh, God, did you say something?
Look alive.
Look alive. Wake up. Woohoo. Yep, this is a Tuesday morning, bright and early. I think it's raining everywhere but where maybe Chandler is. Stadium Insider Shams Charania, Chandler P coming to us from Mexico, and Eddie G on the end. We had some games last night. We had a big game at the Garden. Big performance at the Garden and a weird result at the Garden. Julius Randle had 57 points. Yes, that is a career high, but not enough to beat a depleted Timberwolves team. Taurean Prince with 35. I don't believe we've mentioned Taurean Prince all season long. Mike Conley finished with 24 and 11 assists. Tibbs on Randle with the obvious quote, "It's a shame to waste a performance like that." And it was. Chandler, despite the outcome of that actual game, should Knicks fans feel optimistic or pessimistic after last night's game?
You know what? I'm gonna go optimistic here, and here's why. Because they're pretty much locked in the 5th seed, right? The Nets aren't catching them. They're 2.5, 3 games above them, and they're not catching the Cavs. And even if they do, no one's catching the 3 seed. So it's gonna be 4-5, and it's gonna be Cleveland, New York, and you're gonna need games like this from Julius Randle to be able to win this series coming up in round 1. So it is devastating. It is, you never want to have a career night like this and at home and not get the win against a very, very depleted team. But I'm optimistic here just because I do think this is a good thing. This is a good sign to see Julius Randle dominate and play like a number 1 option. And like I said, he's going to have 30, 40, 50-point games in the playoffs to carry this team along with Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett. They're going to have a little bit of everything from everybody on this team. But this is a huge sign seeing this kid. And last year, don't forget, he was getting into it with the fans. He had a down year coming off an all-star year, and he's bounced back, and he's looking like a number 1 option. And they're getting Cleveland in round 1, and they're going to need him to be all of this, what he was last night, for them to get by them. So I'm still optimistic, but yeah, you never want to have a game like this that you're going to look back and remember, and you lost to the Timberwolves without Towns, without Anthony Edwards at home. So it's a little bit of both, but he's looking great, and the Knicks they're pretty much, they are where they are in the seedings.
I'll do it. I'll be the pessimist.
Here we go.
They let a lottery team without their 2 best players shoot 61% from the floor yesterday. That's pretty embarrassing. You got to know Tom Thibodeau's sitting there wondering what the hell was going on. And if you watch the game and if you watch these highlights, it's a lot of wide open shots. It's a lot of dunks, a lot of layups. But what's most concerning, all jokes aside, is that, Taurean Prince had the game of his life on Jalen Brunson. He shot 88 from 3, which he's not going to do most nights. But a lot of those are wide open. A lot of those are over short Jalen Brunson, who's kind of flailing to contest. You see a little bit of their awards yesterday. Yes, Julius Randle had an incredible 3 quarters, but he did not have a great 4th quarter. And he finished the game with a tech just to put the cherry on top of this awful loss. So, no, I'm going to go the other way around. This is ugly. And in a night where they're trying to continue to stay above the Nets, who have looked competitive as of late, this is ugly to see. If you're Cleveland, you got to be looking at this like, oh, we're dropping 135 a night. This is nothing. This is cake. So, yeah, this they can't be happy walking out of this. And selfishly, I'm just kind of happy Julius Randle didn't score 60 points because that's like this marker of like special scoring, even though like 70 might be the new 60 by the end of next season. But I looked at this game in the 3rd quarter and I really felt like an old head because it was like 103 to 103. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to turn in. This game is tight. It's late. It was the 3rd quarter. It was like 3 minutes left in this game. What happened to basketball? Why are there this many points on the court? But yeah, I don't know. If you're the Knicks, you cannot enjoy that win. And that sucks because just a couple of days ago, they beat the number 1 seed in the West and looked great. But that's how it goes.
That's basketball, ladies and gentlemen. It's just one day you're the best. Next day, what are you even doing? Kat, we would love to know, Shams, if there's any word on when he's returning.
Yeah, Michelle, there is optimism that Karl-Anthony Towns will be back in the lineup along with Anthony Edwards, potentially as soon as Wednesday at home against the Atlanta Hawks. The Timberwolves have 9 games left in the year. 5 on the road, 4 at home. And so they'll play at home tomorrow on Wednesday, and then they go back on the road on Sunday for 3 straight games. So it makes sense for Towns' return to come tomorrow. This is a guy that has been doing a lot more 5-on-5. He's really day-to-day at this point. He's cleared to play. It's really up to Karl-Anthony Towns at this point from what I'm told. But when you think about it, he injured that calf, grade 3 calf strain on November 28th. He's coming back about 4 months later. And Anthony Edwards just had a gruesome ankle sprain on Friday. He's on the way back a lot sooner than a lot of people expected. They've gone 26-26 without Cat this season, but they need these last 9 games or so to find a rhythm with him, Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards, and all playing together with Mike Conley. That's the vision that this team had, is how does this group look with Mike Conley being the lead guard on this team? So this is a guy, Anthony Edwards is ascending right now. He's clearly become arguably the face of this franchise along with Karl-Anthony Towns. How will they play together now that they're potentially back in the lineup together on Wednesday?
And that's all fine and good, and good news is always good news. But really, what I really need to know more about is the hat that he was sporting last night. This brown hat, not choosing sides. What's up with that, Shams? Talk to me. Is it fashion?
I honestly, Chandler would know a lot more than me on the fashion issue. We need a full breakdown from Chandler. What
are we doing?
It's confusing. Is he a Yankee fan? Is he a Dodger fan? Why is it brown? But we did find out it's $150, so it's definitely an expensive piece.
Do we? I don't like it. These are 2 cities I've enjoyed living in, but I'm not wearing both.
Yeah.
Typical Jersey guy. Cat strikes me as that like Yankee, Laker, Cowboy fan guy. Like he probably likes Miami football or something too. Like, yo, I gotta see the fit. He probably got the fit off. I think he probably wore those with some Travis Scott Jordans, and he might have got it off. I gotta see the whole fit.
Oh yeah, you know what? I'm sure we can find it somewhere on the interweb. You know what? Cat coming back is big. Anthony Edwards, I would argue, is even a bigger return. I think people probably even more excited to see him, Chandler, when they get both those guys back. Any expectations for this team?
I mean, I think they just want to get it, honestly. They want to get fully healthy, and this team had high expectations. I was the dummy that picked Karl-Anthony Towns to be my preseason for MVP, which I'll never live down. They tried to make a splash. They tried to go the 2 big route, and everyone else was going small. It didn't really work, but they have something here, and they have a lot of talent. Anthony Edwards is an absolute star. They've just kind of been plagued by injury right now, and now they're kind of at the right time. They're getting their guys back, and they can make a little push here. And you look at the standings from 6 to 12. It is wildly close. So it's crazy to think that for everything that they've been in, the Minnesota Timberwolves can somehow end up getting the 6th seed and not even be in the play-in. So it really is crazy. And the best thing for them is just to get healthy, and they're not going to rush Karl-Anthony Towns. A grade 3 calf strain is the next thing is like tearing it. So they're definitely going to be cautious with him. They're going to be slow with him. But he's been out 4 months, and they need to start getting him back. If they have any chance, I think everybody in the West is, for whatever reason, is just kind of disrespecting the Kings and hoping they can get the Kings in a playoff series and see what happens. But honestly, just get healthy for the Timberwolves, get into the series, and then anything can happen in a series.
They can make up a lot of ground in these last 11 games they have. They played the Suns, they played the Lakers, they played the Kings, they played the Pelicans, played the Warriors. They can add games against all those guys, and they might just crawl out of the play-in. And it's a dangerous team, especially if Anthony Edwards is healthy. They play great defense. What remains to be seen, and this goes for the same for the Suns as well, we didn't really get a great picture of them with Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. And honestly, it was kind of a bit of a fail and an odd fit. So they have to cobble that together in 3 weeks. I don't know. That's my reservation. But I trust Anthony Edwards. I actually trust Rudy Gobert as a defensive center in the playoffs. And I think this is a team that is coached well and can make some noise in the playoffs if they get the right matchup. But they got to put all that together in 3 weeks. So I don't know. It's a little iffy.
Did that hurt? Just saying that right now? That positive Rudy Gobert moment?
It really pained me. But with Dylan Brooks out here just being the worst person on earth, I'm leading with love today.
And that, my friends, is a segue, because guess who's next? Dylan Brooks and his team have managed to win 3 in a row. They beat the Mavs last night, 112-108. Triple J with 28 points. Brooks finished with 9, 5, and 4. Kyrie with 28. 0 assists, though. Afterwards, Kyrie gave Brooks his jersey, but declined to accept his in return, and afterwards said, I saw that after the game. I'll probably get it next time. Probably next time. Not this time. I was really on to the next thing, thought process wise. I mean, multitasking is hard, but I get it. There's no next time, right, Chandler? Like, this was, come on.
No. What is the next thing that is not like the shower, icing his knee? What was he didn't want the dude's jersey, and it's funny because this has become such a huge thing, and it's embarrassing. And Dillon Brooks, if this is an eye-opening, I don't know what is, because this is someone who, you want to be respected by your peers. You want someone to want your jersey, and literally this dude just dapped him up, and then Dillon Brooks just jersey and probably gave it to like some little 7-year-old fan. But no, there's definitely not a next time, and this is what Dillon Brooks has become. He's not very likable.
I feel like I understand Dillon Brooks more now. This is his way of love. Him clowning everybody, talking crazy about it. He just wants to be accepted by these guys. And Kyrie still didn't do it anyway. Kyrie's quote is the most hilarious thing I've heard all season. I don't know what he was actually thinking about. Dapping up Jaren Jackson, I don't know. But the fact that he came up with that on the cusp is incredible. I was thinking about the next thing in my process. I guess, dude. Like, whatever the guy says. But shout out to Dillon Brooks. Look, Kyrie lit him up for 3 quarters, scoreless in the 4th quarter. They squandered a late lead. It's a big win for the Grizzlies, and now they get their best player coming back. They got a hold of the 2 seed after the Kings lost, and they're in a great place. And we've been saying all year, they're dangerous once we get to the playoffs. And this renewed energy from Dillon Brooks, I mean, hey, they got some good stuff going over there. They're a scary team to watch.
I mean, look, Dillon Brooks is his own worst enemy, right? I used to hate that phrase, but really nothing else suits him better at this point. He got his 18th tech last night, which now means, of course, he will miss the next game if they don't rescind it, which I can't imagine they would at this point. Distraction-wise, I mean, look, he has positives, but Eddie, these are also negatives. And if you're not available to your team, what exactly are you doing out here?
I mean, obviously getting suspended is a negative. I think for his teammates, they probably love him for who he is. And that was actually his main rebuttal to Draymond, because Draymond was insinuating that his teammates didn't like him and didn't trust him. That's what kind of lit him up. That's what kind of got him, flared up and really into that game and into the Draymond situation. But I got to say this. Him calling out Theo Pinson after the game, calling him a cheerleader, which is why I got the tech, which you see him doing there at the pom-poms, is hilarious. And you always... Look, guys always remember who was in their high school class because they're playing them for 4 or 5 years. They're playing them since they're kids, and then they're playing them in college, and then they may be seeing them in the league. So when he called him out last night and he said, yeah, he was in my high school class and he sucks now, that was like, I bet you his teammates were rallying behind them, because league-wide, guys hate to see Theo Pinson dancing over there on the sideline, and it's basically his role. So I finally was like, you know what, Dillon Brooks? There's a point for you. That was great. That was a great quote. So Chandler knows those guys remember who was in their high school class, who graduated with us, who stayed back to not have to graduate with us, who we saw in college, who we saw in tournaments, who we saw in camps. And so, yeah, he clearly held that grudge for a long time. But he's right. So you gotta love it.
It is true, and Theo is a pest over there. It's like there's pests on the court like Dillon Brooks and Patrick Beverley. Then there's Theo Pinson, who rarely plays, and he's also doing all the hoopla. He's dancing. It is annoying. So I do feel Dillon Brooks on this, and I don't think it's a distraction. Obviously now, if he's getting suspended and he's not missing, he's a critical part of their team, offensively, defensively. Like he's become a very solid player. And I played with Dillon in Memphis. He's not a bad dude. He means well. He's actually very social. He's got a great sense of humor. He's not awful. He's just now, this is what happens when you create this rep and all you have is just fans watching you for this 3 hours, and they're gonna build a case against you, and this is what they're gonna think of you. But he's not a bad dude. It's just he's found this role, and man, he is running with it.
He really is. He's leaning in, as they would say. John Morant was in the building, first time, long time. Was greeted by a whole bunch of cheers from the hometown crowd. Shams, as far as moving forward, when will we see him? What is his status? What's the latest?
So Taylor Jenkins said last night that they're hopeful that he will make his return on Wednesday. I said yesterday on the show, the goal for the Grizzlies was to get him back in the lineup as soon as Wednesday at home against the Rockets. That's a good opponent to come back for. And they feel like after a couple days of scrimmages and practices, he scrimmaged with the team yesterday. He's going to have more work today at the facility as well. They feel like 2 straight days of revving up and then you come back slowly on Wednesday, that he'll be good to go. He's been itching to play. The Grizzlies have been itching to get him back in the lineup. Everyone knows, like Chandler just said about the Timberwolves situation, there's such a short amount of time now for the end of the regular season. Everyone wants to get their group together and see how they play, and that includes Memphis. And getting back Ja Morant Wednesday, getting him back against both these games against the Rockets, which, you know, it's a good opponent to make your debut against. I think that's their goal, get him back tomorrow night, and hopefully from there, eliminate the distractions and get everyone on the floor together.
Yeah, this is people obviously waiting for this one. Chandler, what do you think's going to happen? Just same old, right?
Yeah, I think he's going to get right back to the form he was in before. And listen, he's their everything. Ja Morant is the reason why, you know, Dylan Brooks can bark the way he does, because Ja Morant can back it up. He's the reason Desmond Bane gets these open looks. He's the reason Jaren Jackson is an all-star this year, playing with a guy like Ja Morant. And it's scary because it's just enough time for him to get back, to get acclimated, to get everybody there. And they have the 2 seed locked up. They obviously have no idea who they're going to play with, how the seedings are, but this means the world to them. And hopefully he found peace. Hopefully he found himself. Hopefully everything is left behind him and he goes and he hoops and he focuses on basketball. And this is just all a memory come playoff time. So it's great timing for the Grizzlies. And again, I say it all year, they are an absolute contender with Ja Morant, and they are absolutely not a contender without Ja Morant. So them getting him back right now is huge. Build chemistry, get back on the floor, and look forward to the playoffs and having home court advantage, because that place will be rocking.
You know, back to the Mavs for a second. I know we sort of mocked Kyrie because of his thought process and not being able to do 2 things at once, but he was a little bit banged up in this game. Shams, is there anything there that needs to be concerned about?
Well, I would definitely keep my eye on it. I mean, he's clearly soldiering and going through and worrying out some type of right foot issue. He got the foot stepped on in last night's game by Dylan Brooks as well. Didn't really look intentional, but he did get that foot stepped on pretty good. And so he clearly, after the game, didn't even have the wherewithal to swap jerseys. He wanted to get back to the locker room ASAP because of that foot. He was in a precautionary boot after the game, and we'll see how today goes and how he's evaluated. But this is a guy that's averaging 33 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, 53% from the field, 44% from three-point line, 95% from the free throw line in the month of March. He's playing at an exceptionally high level. Clearly, he's doing it banged up. We'll see the extent of it, but he's clearly soldiering through some right foot issue right now.
I mean, the Mavs are in such a bizarre situation. Right now, they're the 7th seed, but they're what, a game ahead of the Lakers, who are in the 11th seed? I mean, I know we've talked about how crazy the Western Conference looks, but anything can happen in these final days. Eddie, what is more likely for Dallas? Playoff team, play-in team, or lottery team?
Well, play-in team, especially with their injuries that they're piling up. Luka Doncic is still out, and they thought that was maybe a game, 2 games. It's been over a week now. Kyrie is now banged up, and it looks to be real. Like, he left in a boot. Kyrie's not one to milk an injury. Like, you know, people were wondering if he would play through injuries with his contract situation, and he's doing that now, and it got worse as he's done that. So you got to be concerned with the injuries to your 2 stars. Now, they did tread water without Luka, and they did tread water in the couple games that Kyrie missed as well. So you got a little bit of optimism there. But they got to finish strong down this stretch. Everybody's so tight. They lose the next 2 games, they could be out the playoffs. So everybody has to be on high alert. Everybody has to be all hands on deck right now. And they can't. They literally cannot be, because their 2 best players are hurt. And we don't know what versions of them we're going to get when they come back, a thigh and a foot. Hey, turns out you need those when you run around and jump around and play basketball. So those guys probably aren't going to be 100%, and they need every single game they're going to play. I think they still squeak it out and hold on to the play-in. But if they win a do-or-die game, a team that's that reliant on jump shooting and free throw shooting and getting calls to get to the line, I don't know. That's a scary proposition. I wouldn't want to be there if I was them.
Yeah, obviously the injuries for them are tough. They aren't very good without those 2 guys. They gave up a lot for Kyrie Irving. And he has played well, and he is playing through injuries, which now looking like it's going to hurt them. But what they do have is the schedule in their favor. They have the Warriors coming up at home. We all know their struggles at road. They play Charlotte 2 games in a row after that. They got the Pacers still. They got the Hawks, and they finish the season with the Spurs. So they do have a lot of winnable games, but they have to be healthy. They need Luka Doncic. It's crazy because when I went to a game a couple weeks ago, I thought Luka was playing and he was back. And like Eddie said, that was supposed to be a 1 or 2 game thing. And this has definitely lingered and is a little bit concerning. But I think they're a playoff team. I think they get in. I'm looking at their schedule. It's kind of light. Get healthy bodies, but it's tough. I've never seen standing so close to being a lock for the 6th seed to literally not even making a play in. So it'll be interesting for sure.
I know it's definitely going to be a fun end of the season stretch here. And the Warriors, well, since they were my parlay leg, they did exactly the opposite of what I needed. They snapped the 11-game road losing streak. They did it in Houston. Curry with 30, Clay with 29. Kuminga came off the bench, had 17. The 8 road wins now, 8, are the 3rd fewest behind only Houston and San Antonio. I mean, look, it's 1 win. It probably felt more than that to them last night. But as far as the idea that they don't have home court advantage, how vulnerable is this Warriors team at the moment and moving forward?
Very, very vulnerable. And they didn't look good last night either. And they could have lost that game. And this has been kind of the trend all year long. And we're not worried about the Warriors, but then they're on the road. They're not getting home court advantage. But last night, they gave up so many points again to the Houston Rockets, who I believe are trying to lose. And they just don't look good. They don't play with the same edge. And it's weird because usually you see this from like a young, immature team. These are the champs. This is a vet team. They've been there before. I will say come playoff time, I don't think they're going to be tight on the road. I don't think they're going to be nervous. They've been there many times before. But this is a consistent trend here. This is who they are. They're very good at home. They are very bad on the road. So not having that home court advantage definitely puts them in a vulnerable spot.
Yeah, it's tough watching them because they don't look like they're having fun. They look like they don't look like they have the reigning championship banner up in their arena. They look like they're stressed out. They look like they're not having any kind of fun. They look like they hate each other, truth be told. And it looks like they're slogging through this season. And on one hand, you could say, hey, they understand that the playoffs is all that matters. They got to get in and they got to go from there. On the other hand, history says that's really tough to do. There's been a few teams that have done it, and this team is an outlier by all means. And that guy shooting right there and his buddy right there, they're both outliers as well, and they're absolute game changers. But we don't know when Andrew Wiggins is coming back, if he's coming back. Gary Payton II, same thing. We are not sure when he's coming back and what he's going to look like. He's been dealing with that injury the entire season. If they get them back both healthy, fully focused, and ready to go, yes, dangerous. They got lineups they can put all kind of defense all over the court. And the emergence of Jonathan Kuminga, who he's averaging 17 points a game over his last 3 games. He's crazy athletic. He's been able to cobble together some defense for them. He could be their X factor going into the playoffs. But if they all hate each other and they're not healthy, it won't matter. They won't have enough. They absolutely need Andrew Wiggins and Gary Payton because their defense is just porous without them. And that's all it is. And like Chandler said, they didn't play good yesterday. They won against the worst team in the conference, but they did not look good in doing it. Yes, Steph had 30. Yes, Clay had 29. But they did not look all that engaged, and you got to worry about them for the rest of this road trip. And it's tough for them because just like we were just talking about with Dallas, they could just as easily fall out the play-in as well and miss the playoffs. I don't think they will, but all the cause for concern is real with the Warriors.
Shams.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me is no Andrew Wiggins. He has not played since before the All-Star break. His last game was February 13th, so he's been out over a month. And so clearly he's been dealing with personal issues. And they're also without Gary Payton II. Not sure when he's going to be back. I would expect him to be back. I think the Warriors are more sure about Gary Payton II returning at some point before the end of the regular season, potentially early April for Gary Payton II, from what I'm told. But when you look at Andrew Wiggins, I'm curious from Chandler's perspective. Chandler, I'm hearing that the Warriors have not been pressuring Andrew Wiggins at all. They've let him just continue to deal with whatever matter he's dealing with. But as a teammate, how would you be handling this situation? As a leader, how would you be handling this situation? Because it's definitely, it's something that seems to be very real. But, how do you balance giving a guy space versus knowing that you're probably not winning anything without him?
It's tough because you obviously want him back basketball-wise, right? He's a critical piece of their team. He's literally their X factor. We know how good they can shoot the ball, and he kind of mixes that up and is able to go ISO. He can defend. He's long. He's athletic. his situation, it's crazy. I don't know what to believe. I don't know if it's confirmed. I don't know if he's commented on it, but it's tough. And that's something that is completely separate from basketball. This is your personal life. This is your family. This is bigger than basketball. So you have to respect that. You have to respect his privacy, his boundaries. And it's really just an awful situation. And again, I don't know the full details on it, but it's quite possibly the worst, scenario that could happen if it's true. So you got to give him his time. You got to give him his space. Hopefully he's at least staying in shape and ready and prepping to come back for the playoffs once he kind of moves past this or finds peace. But it's an awful, rumor or maybe it is true. Who knows? But you got to give him his time. And again, they're only going to get better once he comes back, and they need him majorly.
And the people who are probably watching all of this the most are the Kings, because that's who they would face in the first round right now. And they must just be thinking, what version of this team are we going to get? Nobody knows. We're taking a quick break here. When we come back, is it possible that the Sixers are better than the Celtics? We'll figure that out when Run It Back returns.
Run it back, run it up, the run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it.
There's a leadership council on the team. I know you guys are two of the guys on the leadership council. When you get the word on that, you have that responsibility because now the whole team knows that you guys are the designated leaders. How do you take that?
Well, I've never been a part of anything like that, actually. But
guys
are usually talking about, like, let's not have this practice or make sure this practice isn't too long. That's what a lot of it's about, is just structuring practices and structuring shoot-arounds, and just obviously Mike wants to have it every day, and then we have guys that don't want to do it any days. So we're finding that compromise with the team, but it's been good. I think we've had a healthy balance, and like Mike will say, while he's sitting in that meeting, it's been working like this. So if we change it and it stops working, he's like, we're going right back to this. So it's our fault. So it's us taking accountability and what we're doing as a team.
Framing issues aside, Shams, I would like to talk about your biggest takeaway for those two guys. They look like they actually like each other, and that the team is figuring stuff out, and no matter what kind of disrespect the rest of us seem to be giving them, they don't hear it. Is that fair? What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think they came into the season with a chip on their shoulder. You have to give Mike Brown a lot of credit. I mean, he's got to be the front runner for Coach of the Year right now, given what he's done, the turnaround that the Kings have been on, 16-year drought, longest in professional sports currently right now that they're gonna snap. But you have to give a lot of credit to the players as well. De'Aaron Fox's development, Domantas Sabonis has come in. He's played at an exceptionally high level, and I think when you look back at that trade, that was another thing that I had a conversation about with them is them finally addressing the trade of Tyrese Halliburton for Sabonis that brought Sabonis to Sacramento. And I think when you think about win-wins, it got Sacramento to the playoffs. It's put De'Aaron Fox in a situation where he's able to play alongside another big in a lot more cleaner environment than he would have with Tyrese Halliburton. So Halliburton's going to be a star. There's no question about it. Sabonis also an all-star as well. And Halliburton's going to have more of a runway to be a franchise cornerstone and a piece. But I think the Kings got exactly what they wanted out of the trade. I think both sides did. So when you think about win-win trades, this probably is the best example of that.
Yeah, it seems like one of those rare moments where it worked out. Chandler, Leadership Council sounds so official. Have you ever been a part of something like that?
Man, times have changed. Can you imagine back in the day if Kevin McHale asked us if we wanted to practice or who wanted to practice, who's hungover? He would tell us to kick rocks if we said, Coach, 6 of us don't really feel it today. That would be incredible. But no, that has never happened in my career. But it's working. It's working for them. Give the players some accountability, and if hopefully they don't take advantage of it. But man, he just got my vote for Coach of the Year just hearing that.
I know, it's very progressive. I kind of love it myself. Shams, thank you. As always, we will talk to you tomorrow morning. You guys sticking around because we got more games. Other things happened last night, and it was just those Kings playing Utah. They beat them. I'm sorry, no, the Jazz beat the Kings last night, 128-120. De'Aaron Fox, though, did have 37 and 7. Okay, so a play-in berth for this Jazz team that we all know started out so red hot, and they've sort of drifted off a little, right now sitting in 10th. What would it mean to this team, Chandler, to get that play-in spot?
I mean, it would be a lot because this is a team again that we thought might be tanking in the beginning of the year, then like magically start off as you know, on the top of the Western Conference at the beginning of the year, and they're right there, and they have something with some of their young guys. But not to switch topics here, but this is why I have a problem with the Kings. No Jordan Clarkson last night, no Colin Sexton, no Lauri Markkanen. And they lose to this team, and that is just why, you know, they're not feared. And this also on the flip side shows that the Jazz are dangerous, and because the league is so talented across the board now that on any given night they can beat you. And that's what happens in a playoff series. It is so hard to beat any team. I don't care what seed, I don't care if they just had to play a play-in, 2 play-in games. It is hard to beat a team 4 times because they're going to adjust. They're going to watch film. You're not scouting anything else other than this. And these guys are talented and they're versatile. They can beat you. And you take away their first or second option, their third and fourth option are still very, very good. So it would be huge for them just because I think the expectations were so low and then they exceeded everyone's expectations early on. They kind of fell back off. And now they're right there in the hunt to kind of get in this play-in. And anything can happen. So I love what they're doing. I love their coach. I love their youth. I love what Lauri Markkanen, the seasons he's had. So I think just making that play in and having a chance is icing on the cake for a season that we thought was going to be a throwaway anyways.
Eddie, you heard all the reasons Chandler has concerns about the Kings and possibly why they don't get some of the respect that maybe they think they deserve. They are 3rd place right now. They would face the Warriors if things were to start today. But for you, what are your expectations realistically for what they can accomplish moving forward?
I think Chandler's right about last night. I mean, you can give them the excuse and say, hey, this was the end of a long road trip, a 4-game trip. They kind of went all over the country to do it. But this is an embarrassing loss. They're missing their top guys. And you go out there and drop this, you're immediately down 25. You just come out sluggish. And it's their defense. It all starts and ends with their defense. We know they can put up points. They put up points against everybody in the league. They make everybody win a shootout against them. But the Jazz did just that. And I want to shout out Walker Kessler, my guy. I tweeted yesterday, yo, the Rudy Gobert trade may eventually be the Walker Kessler trade because he was sensational last night in bottling up Domantas Sabonis. He held Sabonis to 4 of 11 from the field, just 11 points, and he matched him with 10 points. He's a guy who pretty much never touches the ball, had some huge blocks down the stretch, including a big one on Sabonis, to the point where Sabonis got frustrated and dunked on him eventually. But the Jazz, such a resilient team. It would be great for them to make the playoffs, but they got to look back at this season as success either way. They have a young all-star that they got in that trade, and they got to feel good going forward. But, yeah, the Kings, their warts, they're all right there. They're starting Kessler Edwards, who was a bench warmer and a two-way guy for the Nets, and they're fully healthy starting him. They have holes on that roster that they just can't get around functionally. They're not athletic enough. They don't have quick enough feet. They're giving a lot of minutes to guys like Trey Lyles and Domantas Sabonis who just do not defend, and there are going to be issues going into the playoffs. So, yes, if they get the Warriors, I'm almost going to say whatever version of the Warriors. That's a short series, and it sucks because it's been a great season for them. So, if I'm them, I'm watching the bottom of the standings, and I'm trying to get that 2 seed best we can. But, yes, all their flaws are apparent, and last night was a great example of them.
Oh, I wish the playoffs started today. Bulls Sixers. Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to snap Philly's win streak. It was sitting there at 8. It took 2 overtimes, though, for the Bulls to do it. Levine, DeRozan, and Vucevic combined for 72 points, and Embiid finished with 37 and 16. Right now, the Bulls are sitting in the 10 spot, Chandler. They seem to be doing okay since the Pat Beverly trade. How dangerous could they actually be in a play-in scenario?
In the play-in, I think they're dangerous because I do think they could beat Toronto. I do think they could beat Atlanta, and Miami's that kind of tricky team that's going to give, I think, one of those top 3 seeds fits in the first round. But they have a mature team here, and adding Pat Beverly, adding that voice, adding that toughness to that core 3 that are older guys that have been there before, that have played in big games. They're dangerous, and I think they were never really a fit in the beginning. They're very mid-range kind of. Their half-court offense gets junked up, but they do have talent. You know how much I love Billy Donovan. They have a great coach, and the addition of Patrick Beverly. It's funny, but sometimes you just need to bring that spark and that adjustment to a guy to come in here and give you energy and to give you life. That's exactly what he done. So you look at the standings there. Listen, whoever I think is the 7-8 seed is the Miami's the only one there, and that 7 to 10 that I think can give Milwaukee, Boston, or Philly fits, but I would take Chicago out of those other three to be the one that gets that 8th seed and goes up against Milwaukee.
There was a moment in the third quarter last night. There's a lot of video coming up here, so pay attention. But Kobe White just has a moment with Joel Embiid, and Joel Embiid is probably a little embarrassed about how he goes down, ankles and all. But then it doesn't take long, right? Because moments later, Joel Embiid will try and get his retribution, and it's also not great for Kobe White. Here he is, just a giant man and a tiny man, and things go exactly how you think they would. Chandler, was there a little extra sauce on that charge? Talk to me, because it feels like there might have been.
Yeah, a little bit. The most shocking thing of the video, though, was Patrick Beverley helping Joel Embiid up after he kind of got broken. That's usually not his thing, but yeah, you can tell maybe a little bit here, and also just the size difference of that man running into that man.
Yeah.
It's going to be an explosion, but no flagrant. You could tell he felt a little bad afterwards. He went and helped him up, asked him if he was okay, but yeah, that's a very small point guard trying to take a charge against a very big center. And it ended exactly how we thought it would.
Yeah, I feel like there was a moment where White should have been like, not a good idea at all.
You can see Derrick Jones telling the ref, like, yo, he led with his elbow, and he absolutely did. But credit to Kobe White for trying to take that charge. Joel Embiid was in foul trouble all night. He ended up fouling out in overtime, but yeah, he laid into him a little bit there. He dipped the shoulder a little bit, pointed the elbow out. I love Joel Embiid. I think he's the most dominant player in the league. I think at times he can be the most fun player to watch. But when he's falling before he's even thinking about jumping, I'm like, all right, bro, come on. You're a foot taller at 150 pounds heavier. Go dunk the ball. What are you doing?
Right?
So it's just frustrating watching that play. He's probably embarrassed for getting floor seats on the other side a couple plays before that. So
it really,
that's what we
his
get.
fall, it's so awkward to watch him go down on the other side of the court. It's just a giant man and an awkward fall. And I'm sure he was embarrassed, but they are doing well. Sixers, for the most part, have been crushing as these last weeks have gone on, Chandler. And now the big question is, are they better than the Celtics?
Oof, it's close. I think the Celtics are more consistent. They're better defensively, but yeah, the Celtics have nobody that can guard Joel Embiid. Philadelphia's offense, they can hurt you in many different ways. They can go inside, they can go outside, they can beat you in transition. They do have a solid defense when they flock in, and they have the roster to be a good defensive team. So this would be an incredible series, honestly, because I think they kind of match up well. I don't know who I would even pick in this series because it's pretty even. I would probably give the edge to Philadelphia just because I don't know what they're going to do with Joel Embiid. There's no way Al Horford can guard this dude. There's no way, Grant Williams can guard this guy. They're going to have to double team, and they have shot makers all around the floor that if they step up and make shots, I like Philly, but yeah, they're both incredible. Milwaukee's incredible. Yeah, I don't remember where the teams have been this dominant in the top three and such a drop off in a long time. So all three of those teams have had such good years.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way. I think Boston is the clearly better team and the better matchup. Yes, Joel Embiid is a matchup issue for everybody, but he still hasn't won 2 playoff series, and it hasn't mattered in that sense. I think the difference is just the wing depth on both sides. You're relying on PJ Tucker a lot in that series because besides him, you're asking Tobias Harris, you're asking Daniel House, you're asking George Niang, you're asking those guys like, yo, please go stop Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Please go close out on these guys all night and be disciplined in your closeouts and your rotations. I just don't think they have the functionality to do that. And when they want to play that 3-guard lineup with Melton, with Maxey, and with James, and then Tobias Harris, like you just have a lot of defensive holes out there and a lot of ways for Joel Embiid to get in foul trouble and get ran through rotations, truthfully. So I like the Celtics in that matchup. I think the Sixers may be a better team. They're finishing the season stronger. That was an ugly loss last night. And I don't know if you can smell that, but that was James Harden's game. He scored 5 points in 2 overtimes. Like what? James shows up to that game yesterday. They win running away. So there's some holes there. It'll be a great series. I love to see it. I hope we get it in the second round. But if they get in the second round, they get sent home again in the second round. You're looking at Philly like, all right, what are you guys doing going forward?
By the way, the 2 of 14, 0 of 6 from 3 for James Harden is flashbacks to the James Harden that I have never trusted. Those are one of those moments where you're like, uh-oh, this is bad. Taking a quick break. When we come back, one of LeBron's former teammates say nobody fears him the way they feared MJ. When Run It Back returns.
Run it back, run it up, the run it back, yeah. Run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back.
This March, get off the bench and into the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers can tip off the tourney with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. With FanDuel, you can bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will score first. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Make every moment more with FanDuel. So, LeBron's former teammate, Mario Chalmers, had some things to say on the In Shambles podcast. Why are you smiling, Eddie? You ready for the quote? Okay, here we go. Nobody fears Bron. Nobody's like, damn, I got to go play against Bron tonight. Nobody said that. I don't know why, because I've seen people be scared when they actually line up to him, but they're not scared thinking about that matchup. You hear anybody from that era talk about going against Jordan? There's a fear. Chandler, you buying that?
I'm buying what he's saying because he's not like hating on LeBron at all. They're close friends. And what he was trying to say, which I think is getting blown out of proportion, is there's harder matchups one-on-one, right? Like when I was playing, I feared guarding Kevin Durant more than I feared guarding LeBron James, just because of his ability to score at ISO, the way he can break you off, the way you can play great defense, he can shoot over you. LeBron is more passive, right? He gets off by making the extra pass and he's less aggressive. But let's not get it twisted. There's fear when you see this man coming downhill at you, or even when you're going for a layup, you know he's coming behind you to block your layup off the backboard. So there's fear. I think Mario just meant like MJ, Kobe, KD, even like Steph. These guys try and go at your neck on an ISO every single time. They're almost disrespected that, Chandler Parsons is guarding me, right? LeBron wasn't more like that. LeBron likes to get his teammates involved. He's a little bit more passive. He enjoys facilitating more than scoring. So I think that's what he meant. There's no argue how great of a player LeBron is. Obviously, Mario Chalmers spent years with him before. There was always little tips with them back and forth. So maybe this was something personal, but I didn't take it as that. I took it as there's a lot harder matchups that you fear, which I agree. I would rather guard LeBron than Klay Thompson, who doesn't stop moving off screens all day long, or Jamal Crawford, who will literally try and embarrass you on an ISO. So I think that's what he meant. I don't think it was like pooping on LeBron as a matchup, because it's not an easy matchup.
Yeah, I think it's a great perspective. And when I talk to more players about stuff like this, it reminds me of convos about like Kobe or Kyrie, and just like the skill level and the difficulty of shot making and stuff like that. Whereas me on the couch as fan goes, oh, I conjure up these narratives in my head. And it's like, yo, if they were that scared of Mike in the 90s and you guys told me that's the toughest era of basketball, something's not adding up. But when I talk to more players and more people who've been on the court and had to prepare and had to worry about doing this, a lot of it sounds exactly like what Chandler's saying. Like, yo, it's just harder to deal with this guy on an island. And that's a little more terrifying. And I think it all comes down to the jumper, honestly. There's a game plan for LeBron. It doesn't always work. It usually doesn't work. But there's a game plan that says, yo, if I give him 3 feet, at least he'll have to barrel through me to score. And he's probably still going to do that. But he's not going to just shoot it. It's not going to be one of those things where no matter how great I defend, Kobe's still going to hit this jumper on my face and it doesn't matter. So I do buy it as I talk to more players and hear and understand a little better. But yes, when he said this, I rolled my eyes because I'm tired of this narrative. And if guys were cowering in their hotel rooms of Michael Jordan, then there's something wrong with those players. And not because Michael Jordan's amazing, but Mike is amazing. Mike's the GOAT. Don't get me wrong.
I will not get you wrong as long as you added that sentence. We're all good. So let's move on to the Pelicans. They say we've been waiting for these words, by the way. They're planning to have Zion back before the playoffs. They do face the Spurs tonight. Okay, so they're 12th in the West right now, Chandler. Are you buying that they should bring Zion back at all?
Yeah, there's a thin line here, right? Like if he's healthy enough to play, yes, we that's why we drafted him. That's why we just gave him a huge extension. We need him on the floor. We didn't do it for jersey sales. We didn't do it for tickets sold. We did it for him to perform. like he performs when he's on the court. So when you look at the standing, like we've been talking about all episode here, they're right there and they can squeak in. And it was not long ago this team was a top 4 team early on in the season. They looked dangerous and they were fully loaded with BI and CJ McCollum and all these new young guys, Herb Jones, Alvarado. They were very, very, very good and a threat in the beginning of the season. But that is with Zion. So if Zion is healthy, obviously you can't imagine they're rushing him back for this. But yeah, if he can play. Like there's no point in waiting, right? They're either in or they're out. They're either going to get that, get to the play-in and have a chance, or they're not. And Zion can rest all off season long. He can lose as much weight as they want him to. He can get as much treatment as he wants to. So yes, I'm all for it because this team is exciting and this team has a real chance when they're fully loaded.
Yeah, I'm with Chandler. I mean, I think there's something to be gained in seeing him come back from an injury in a season, from seeing him work through the motions and get there. He had a setback with this a few weeks back, so you want to see that he can progress to that point. I'm no doctor, but I'd imagine that it has to be a positive light going forward if you're them. And I think, it is about jerseys. It is about ticket sales. It's about all of that just as much as it is about the standings. They have a tough schedule going forward. They play the Clippers twice. They play the Warriors. They play the Grizzlies. They play the Kings. They have no easy games left on this schedule. But you want to get him out there. You want to see him with those guys. They've had a rough couple months, and you got to see some positivity, even if it's going into the offseason and not the playoffs. So, yeah, get him out there. Get him healthy. Let's see him. I want to see him as a fan. I know they want to see him as an organization.
And I feel like he wants to be out there as well. I mean, we probably can all assume that. Spurs, by the way, we could talk about Spurs for a second. They rallied from 24 down the other day to beat the Hawks. That was Sunday. That also, though, came on the heels of them blowing a 29-point lead in third quarter on Friday night against the Grizzlies. So, Chandler, are you buying that Pop comes back next year?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, why would he? This team is obviously rebuilding. It's tanking. Maybe if they were to get the #1 pick and he wants to kind of groom Victor and be there for the early part of his career. But I feel like Pop, even if he leaves, he's still going to be affiliated and he's still going to help. He's still going to be around. But I can't see it. This team doesn't really excite me. I feel like Beadle, you would know better. But if I'm him, I'm going and I'm setting sail and I'm drinking my red wine and I am out of there.
I don't know. I feel like he's coming back at least for one more year. And the only reason I say that is, yes, they will probably get a pretty decent draft pick. But more importantly, I really genuinely think he's having a good time. We got 4 19-year-olds on this team, and he's out there physically coaching them up in between plays during the game. To me, it's a fun that he has not had in quite some time. That's very different. Yeah, the record doesn't reflect it, but I think the coaching aspect for him has been stimulating once again. I mean, he'll tell you when it was Timmy and those guys, you just sort of put them out there and everybody did what they did and the banners were raised. But I think he's having fun in a weird way. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll give it a shot. We'll give you some ways to possibly win some money. Don't hold it against us when Run It Back returns.
Run it up, the run it back, yeah. Run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back.
FanDuel Casino's March weekly Super Sweeps is here, and you can win a share of $300,000 each week from March 14th through April 2nd. Every Tuesday through Saturday, opt in, and any bet of $200 or more gets you an entry to that Sunday's sweepstakes drawing. See FanDuel Casino for more details on how you can enter the March weekly Super Sweeps. Boys, I would like to share my deepest apologies for once again failing you both.
Oh.
Shout out Joel. It took 2 overtimes, but he got that 34th point.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. You got 2 overtimes to do yours. This is stupid. but that's fine. We'll start again and we'll try again. Eddie, take it away.
Yeah, I got the Wizards that are some reason getting a point against the Magic. I don't understand what's going on. They're the much better team in my estimation, and they need this game really bad. So I'm going to take that point.
Okay. Chandler?
All I'm saying is I'm about to be Harry Styles, and I'm going solo if you guys keep dragging me down.
That's fair.
I like, it passed there. I forgot who but it's going to hit.
Yeah, it's gonna hit. I got Thunder +7.
+3. That's +3. Love that.
Yeah, I feel like that. Well, the funny thing is you wanted Clippers, which means that I'm going to lose my leg of this parlay. Guys, we'll give it another shot. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday afternoon into the evening. A few games to watch tonight, and we will be back in the morning to dissect them all. Have a good one.